make sure. I don't know why it doesn't always come up quick enough on YouTube. It's never live when it's... Did it stop, like, spinning?
Oh, yeah.
All right, cool. We have...
Published.
It's official. It's live, bro.
We are live.
All right, we're live on YouTube, but not yet for the actual podcast. Ah, crap, I didn't. Let me just copy and paste this, and I'll share it. Did you put? Oh, I gotta mute that if I'm gonna do it. Boom. All right, cool. I'm gonna start off with some music, brother,
Sounds good.
and then obviously when I do my read, you'll know that we're live. Not on YouTube though. What? YouTube live? I gotta get back to the video 1 second. Jesus fucking. Technology sucks.
Three viewers.
Oh, we already have people on? Cool. All right. What you can hear, I think you should listen to some of these clips. I'll play the Time Machine one. Hello, goblins and ghouls. Welcome to the Nightmare 365 podcast. We're just two brothers exploring the unexplained, mysterious, and spookiness that lives among us. Nobody believes us, but this is the center of weirdness for the entire planet. On today's episode, we are talking about Case File 22, Time Travel. You hear that, Jay?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
From Back to the Future, if you're listening to this. I got the time machine going. We're going back. Do you want to go back or do you want to go forward? If you had a choice talking about this.
Depends on how far back I can go.
It's a time machine. You can go you could pick any time period, forward or backwards that you want to go to. You
I
just
don't know,
pick
it's really tough. I think I would go both.
You do both?
Yeah, why not?
All right. What if it was just a one-trip time machine?
Do I stay there then?
Yeah, that's it.
I would go forward then.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Because what if you get hurt when you went back? You know, you'd be fucked.
That's a chance you have to take, you know, if you're doing that. But we're talking about time travel today, some of the theories, obviously some of our favorite movies of time travel.
There's only one.
You only have one?
Back to the Future. 1, 2, and 3.
You don't have any others?
What other one you think?
That I think you like or just in general?
Just in general that you like.
Dude, I loved Hot Tub Time Machine.
Never saw it.
You never saw that one?
No.
It's great.
I
don't know.
Where he calls up his future wife.
Yes. Do you have to watch it? You never seen that?
I've seen bits and pieces of it.
Ah, dude, that's a great one. Hot Tub Time Machine.
I'm talking to my wife.
And she's like 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. So check that one out. There's plenty of other ones. I mean, obviously, Back to the Future, which I played a clip.
Yep.
Everybody's familiar with that one. So, I mean, it's understandable. I get it.
Encino Man? He was frozen.
I guess that's sort of time travel.
Kind of.
I don't know. I wouldn't consider that a time travel movie. But yeah, Back to the Future is a big one.
They say like Star Trek is.
Star Trek can be considered, I guess. That one. Hot Tub Time Machine I love. But we'll pull up some movies. We're going to talk about that. I want to jump in. This is not weird news yet, but the segment here, with the Olympics just ended. And we also talked about this on our previous podcast, The Simpsons Predict the Future.
Yep.
And The Simpsons did it again, brother. They predicted the future of the U.S. Olympics curling. they predicted the U.S. would win in curling 8 years ago, and obviously they did this past weekend, this past weekend because it just ended.
All you're doing is brushing ice with a stone.
I mean, I think the sport is pretty goofy, but I do remember the episode with Marge and Homer.
Yep.
And curling, but 8 years ago, The Simpsons predicted it. It originally aired on February 14th, 2010. Homer and Marge Simpsons are paired with obviously two others in a curling team, and they won. And it was the Olympics in Vancouver, I guess.
So they didn't really predict it. They just predicted that the U.S. would win. Vancouver Olympics already happened, right?
Yeah. I mean,
So.
we talked about it. We talked about our whole theory. So if people want to check that out, go listen to the old episode of The Simpsons Predict the Future. There's a lot of interesting topics that pertain to this, but I don't think it's not weird news. Like we talked about before the show, this is not something we would classify as weird news totally.
Nope.
So let's jump into it, brother. Let's jump into the real weird news. It's spooky. So this weird news, brother. Weird news. So we have this from motherboard.vice.com, and I've seen a lot of tweets about this, videos about this, and I'm sure it's something near and dear to your heart. Flat earthers are explaining some of these theories. What we're talking about here in Weird News is that the SpaceX Falcon launch, Elon Musk, is a conspiracy and it's faked.
I don't buy that.
And Elon Musk pulled off the perfect murder. You know.
Well, if you're a billionaire, I'm sure you can get away with murder pretty easily.
Well, some of the claims it seems valid to me, right?
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on this. I have no clue about space.
Mm-hmm.
The most I do is, hey, I'll look through a telescope from time to time and check this out. But what they're claiming is that some of the footage looks extremely fake.
Sure.
The Earth, when they showed old, I guess, pictures.
Yeah.
If
from
you
NASA, yeah.
Well, they just say like the Earth is way too close, and even if you look at it from satellite images,
yeah,
the Earth would look a lot closer than the perfect sphere it is here.
Sure.
And again, there was a lot of pictures people pointed out saying that there was really no landmass that they people saw when this was originally live feed.
Sure.
So they were like, all right, well, there's no landmass on this whole globe. It's just blue and, it's some clouds. And to me, when I did look at it, and I even talked to the ghost about this a while ago, that it does look extremely fake.
Yeah, yeah.
Like when you looked at some of the photos, and people pointed out it has no rear view mirror in the car. They sent up this Tesla car, right? That's what it is, the Tesla car.
I believe so, yeah.
And they said, all right, there's no rear view mirror because they don't want you to show like the camera crew that's behind it. There's a lot of CGI pictures.
Maybe they just didn't have like the complete car for weight ratio.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, people have been tweeting about this. You could look at, at Nothing Serious, that awkward moment when an accidental flash exposes the CGI studio and everyone sees that your thing, SpaceX, is fake. But then
how do you explain the rocket then?
Well, that's what I was just going to bring up. I don't know how you explain some of this stuff and why you would spend, millions and millions of dollars on trying to, send people into space and all this other stuff.
Like if I won the Powerball, like when it was like $1 billion,
Uh-huh.
I would love to send all the flat Earth people up on a spacecraft.
Just the flat Earth? Why not you?
Just to prove to them the Earth isn't flat.
Yeah, this one, it's tricky because I'm always...
Yeah, you're skeptical. I mean, you can see...
I am very skeptical.
Why people believe, it looks fake. I get that, but...
No, and I guess more so, with, just even talking to you and then the ghost itself, we talked about this, and I think you guys are more skeptical on a lot of stuff. I don't know if I have... I don't believe everything on the internet, even when I read some of this stuff, and I just try to, do as much research as possible.
Yep.
and listen to videos, look at photographs. Obviously, anything that's on social media
Yeah.
can be misconstrued, and people take stuff and run with it. So it depends on what narrative you really want to believe,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not there. I'm not there when they're launching these things. I'm not there, in space looking at the car. Is there a way to, people could look up in a telescope and say there's a car?
Well, yeah. There's a thing on NASA.com, I think, where you can track every of the satellites passing over. If you have a strong enough telescope, you can see,
And we
the
did talk
satellites and all that
about
shit
this
passing over.
for the weird, for the moon landing, so people can check that stuff out. But my just thoughts on this whole thing, it's really fishy. And even Elon Musk said, it looks so fake that it has to be real. And he was quoted in saying that supposedly,
Well, yeah, look at the movies. Like, some of the movies that have CGI in them look really realistic.
No, they do. And if I
So-
was watching it real quick, I would never know. So,
Correct.
yeah, if people want to read more about this, and just look up on Twitter. Twitter went nuts with this stuff. And a lot of, I point to you and just say it, a lot of people in the flat earth community really believe this.
I would love to talk to a flat earther.
I said we can try to get some people on. We talked about that too, but this was a big thing in there, so go check that out. That's a bit of weird news, and I thought since this was floating around, it
Sure.
warranted the weird news
Well,
kind of
here's
component
my
for us.
question to all the flat earthers.
All right,
Couple questions. I'll buy. You wanna believe the Earth is flat? Cool. I'm game. Let's do it. Couple questions. One, what holds the water in? Okay, and where does it end? Or does it just go on infinity we just don't know? Because
I talk to people and I watch videos.
there's two things. I've flown one way to go, around the world, one way to go to a destination the other way. So how do you explain that?
I mean, I took a plane to Australia.
Correct. Another thing, okay, is what's underneath. If it's flat, something has to be on the other side.
The Garden of Eden. A lot of people think that. A lot of people think of the ice wall. A lot of people.
Yeah, I know the ice wall.
Well, here's one thing. If I really want to just say, when they say the government and everybody is keeping this, under wraps because they want to keep this land.
Sure.
But land is such a commodity, and
Yep.
it's such. One of the things, I don't want to get too much into this because this is not what this is about, and
flat earthers.
I think this whole thing, but let's just talk about it on a different episode.
That would be awesome.
So yeah, a lot of people. Hey, Elon Musk, did he fake this launch and did he fake a car in space? I don't know. That's just the weird news that we found.
Email
for
us
today.
or message us
Yeah,
if you can
anybody,
want a debate for flat Earth.
anybody could talk to us. I mean,
Love
we're
it.
open minded. But anyway, let's just jump into it, bro. That was weird news.
The Earth is round, bitches.
All right, brother. So we got
Time travel.
time travel, the big mystery. So I'm just pulling up a couple things on time travel. We'll start. And time travel is possible.
Well, that's what they say, right? Albert Einstein came up with a theory that, space is the third dimension, time
Well, he proved it, yeah. and
is the fourth dimension.
I watched a bunch of stuff, and even some of the physicists that talk about this, it says it's possible to go in time. And like your favorite movie of time travel, Back to the Future,
Love that
they
movie.
got part of it right? There's some parts that the physicists talk about and
Sure.
say they got completely wrong, but there's some things that they got completely right.
Mhm.
Like the point where he sends Einstein, the dog, into the future, right?
Yeah.
And he comes back, and it's like a couple minutes difference. Their
Correct.
watches.
Yep.
They prove that that's correct. If you look at it from a scientific standpoint, and yes, Einstein did prove this. And what they said was, if you can go to the speed of light forward as fast as you can,
Sure.
and you come back, time is going to be different, right? You're still going to age the same. It's not, you're not going to all of a sudden go like Back to the Future,
Mhm.
where it's like you go back in time, then you run back to the future, then you go back. It doesn't work like that, supposedly, like from some of these people that they said.
Yeah.
I recommended what we always like to do on the show. We recommend books, videos, anything to check out. I have 2 recommendations in the show notes. Check it out. about time travel, and one is a physicist talking about this, which they talk about um, how time travel works, and it's by Tech Insider. And then also another video that I thought was really cool was 10 theories that prove time travel exists. And we're going to talk about that today as well on the podcast. But I just wanted to mention that as well. But time travel, man. So we know from theories from Einstein proved it, and he said like space is almost malleable, right?
Correct.
It can move around, and even I was watching some podcasts and episodes with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I know I talked about him before.
You love that guy.
He is pretty cool, even though some of the stuff that he says is out there. But I do like the guy. But he was talking about that, which he made a great point, and I want to bring up with time, right?
Yep.
We always think about time just going back to a certain place.
Correct.
But he talks about you can't have a place without a time and like coordinates, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, we're going to do this podcast right at noon.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't be like, okay, we're doing it at noon. Where? All right, in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you need like a location, you need a time.
Sure.
And even like think of it as like a city,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're in a city and you have the grid. You know, New York City's laid out as a grid. And you go, all right, we're meeting on, you know, second and whatever. And so you have the coordinates there, and then you could be in a building. So on the third floor at what time? And that's kind of how like the space
Yeah,
works.
the different dimensions. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a kind of cool thing too, to dive in and listen to some of these physicists talk and read about it, which I had no understanding. Half the time when I was listening to them, I was like, "What? I just want to go back to, you know."
Well, it's like, when did the first clock, you know, when was it first invented? Like the clock,
Time.
right? Yeah. Because like before the clock, obviously, you know, no one knew, you know, it was 1 p.m., right? So like you think back in the olden days when they didn't have like anything, any technology, right? It was just the sun sets and rises.
All right, so the first mechanical clock was, it looks like Europe started around the 14th century, and it became standard for timekeeping devices until a clock was invented in 1656.
Well, like I know they had sundials and everything like that.
Yeah, they did, and obviously they had clocks back in the day, and not too many people think about it. So I guess the technology or the thought was in the 14th century, and it didn't become practical till the 1600. It looks like, just from
Sure.
the quick Google search that we have here, just in time travel. So yeah, like what is time, right?
Correct.
You know, when you think about time and then think about going back in time, I always thought too, because we talk about this a bunch. Just thinking about going back and reliving a moment.
Yep.
You know, but if we now travel back in time, we're not reliving that moment as we did back then. You know, as our consciousness,
Sure.
you know, is there, but we're merely now a spectator of going back. So say if I wanted to go back, you know, when I was a kid and I got into this as, you know, I love the paranormal and all this stuff. I want to go to the spy house and I want to relive that moment, but I'm not going to relive that moment, but I could follow myself around, you know, living that moment in the present, you know, in the 1990s as I am now.
Yeah.
But just to think about, like, even, you know, try to equate it to Back to the Future.
Well, I always think about it too. Like, let's say you did go back in time and you were yourself, hypothetically, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
You went back and you turned into whatever, high school senior you, and you made one other decision that you didn't make the first time.
Like
would that change the rest of your life?
Yeah, the whole butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
That's what fascinates me about time travel. Like, is it possible? I don't know. Like, there's examples like where you type in, is time travel possible? And people, you know, point at some photos or videos.
Oh, we'll talk about that too.
I
found some interesting ones.
But like what boggles my mind is, all right, let's say, you know, if you believe in like destiny, if you believe in, you know, fate, if you believe in all that stuff, like let's say you made one different decision, like you didn't go to the college you picked. You went to a different college.
I thought about that a lot.
You know, how different your life would be. Would you still meet the same people? Like there's a good Netflix, well, it's not, I wouldn't say it's good, but a Netflix movie that just came out when we first met. It's about you know, the guy from Workaholics, Adam.
Yeah, he's in it.
Yeah, he's in it. He's the main
I'll have
character.
to check it out.
So it's kind of a comedy, but it's funny and it's about time travel. So he meets this girl at a party, And fast forward 3 years later, she's getting married to somebody else. And he's like drunk, and he's like, that should have been me. You know, we met at this party 3 years ago, blah, blah, blah. Goes to a photo booth. It's like an old school photo booth. Puts in a quarter and like is replaying that night. And he wakes up 3 years prior. And he goes back and relives the night. And he keeps doing this throughout the whole movie. But it was weird.
I'll have to watch it.
But it was weird because the same characters that like from like the beginning were in through the whole movie. So it was like kind of like destiny. Like the one guy his friend had a good quote in it. It was like, you know, opportunities present themselves no matter, you know, what you do. Mm-hmm. You just got to know what to do with those opportunities and seize that moment.
Yeah, I think that's anything with life, right?
But it was a funny movie. You should watch it. It's funny.
Watch. So, there's a time travel movie. I think if you enjoyed that movie, you would like Hot Tub Time Machine. Plus, it has to do with skiing, which I enjoy. So that's always good. Yo, I wish I can go back in time to relive some of the Goosebump moments. You know, as a kid.
Goosebump books.
That's why I'm wearing the shirt. So people on YouTube watching, they could check that out. I'm wearing the Goosebump shirt, the haunted mask. But my whole thing, like you just said before, like going back in time, what if I didn't pick a certain school?
Yep.
Right? I always think about that too. Like how different my life would be.
Yeah, it's crazy.
If I went to, I thought about going, I'll tell people, I thought about going to Salem State, which is Salem University, like up in Salem, Massachusetts, being in the Witch City. Obviously, I loved it for the simple fact that it was Halloween, you know, had witches. Hocus Pocus, all that stuff, man. And some of the friends that I made, you know, I met a lot of people, but, you know, like a good friend that I made in college, my buddy Anthony. And because I talked to him about this, and I was saying, you know, if I went to that college, would I have met you? Or would there some way we would have met outside of this? Because if I look at my daily life, I don't know if I ever came across him.
Sure.
In that time, you know, time frame. But would time allow in the future to come across that person, or would I have found another version of that person, you know, making those decisions? You know, would we be doing these, you know, this podcast now?
Maybe you'd just be doing it somewhere else with somebody else.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that, but it is true. Like there's choices that we make that could affect our timeline.
Correct.
And a lot of people think, you know, if they went back in time and did certain things, right? So say if we went back in time and just messed up one little thing, or just our presence.
It's like Biff.
You know, yeah, everything could change. You know, that like whole butterfly effect.
Yeah.
I guess it's the same thing, and that's kind of a time travel movie in itself. But
yeah, I think that's totally possible, and I think you know, I don't know. I always think about it too. Like, let's say like you got in trouble, you know, somewhere in your life. Would that lead you down a path of like, you know, to get in trouble through the rest of your life? Maybe go to jail. You know, would that happen if you made like a stupid decision, like you got caught for some of the things that maybe you did? You know, I don't know.
Well, the whole thing too, like what boggles my mind is that we know, you know, scientists prove that yes, it may be not what we think of as in movies of time travel, but time travel does exist for the future.
Yeah.
But tapping into that past, I don't know why we can't. Like, there has to be.
Our dreams like go back to the past sometimes.
I mean, we talked about psychic dreams, so
sure, but that's, you know, is that time traveling in the sense, like, because you're going back and reliving something in your dreams?
Well, what about like we talked about last week, right, with psychic dreams, and you and the ghost said it's kind of crap.
I think so.
But all right, just you made that point. All right, what if your dreams? Yes, you could tap into the future, and what if some of these people with psychic dreams predicting the future, they tapped into that? We may not know like how that concept really works.
Sure.
But they tapped into it somehow. Maybe there's, you know, like we said, we only use a part of our brain.
Mm-hmm.
And what if in a certain part of the brain we can tap into that information? And now we saw the future. You know, maybe like a glimpse. You know, we talked about too, where you see people in your dreams. You know, I know it's you. I'm looking at my brother, but it's really not you. You don't look anything like it. Maybe it's the future version of you,
maybe.
And I don't recognize you at the moment.
Or maybe it's a different dimensional version of me.
Doesn't that trip you out though?
Kind of.
And I mean, there's plenty of obviously stories, accounts. Oh, here, look at even the Christmas Carol talks about time travel. In a different direction.
Oh yeah, I guess you can say that's a time travel movie.
I mean,
because there's different versions of him.
Yeah.
Like how he would have turned out, obviously, if he made
right.
Certain
decisions. The present, the future, the past.
That's a good movie.
Yeah, a lot of people think about that too. And just getting back to the scientific base of it, and people talk about wormholes too.
Yeah, wormholes, black holes.
Yeah, wormholes is the big thing because they believe, in Einstein's field, his question, his relativity is, all right, we know getting to from point A to point B in a straight line, that's like the quickest way, but like the wormhole, if you like curve that time and space and you jump through the wormhole, you kind of cut that. It's like a shortcut, cut it in half.
Yep.
And people believe that, if you go through these wormholes, it's possible to go into a different dimension, time.
I'm surprised they haven't sent a satellite or anything like NASA into these black holes or
but I don't think they could predict when these wormholes and black holes exist from my reading and understanding about this. And again, reading some of this stuff, it boggles my mind just to think about it.
Well, yeah, because some of the stuff you don't even know.
Yeah, quantum physics.
Yeah, it's way above my fucking head.
Yeah, when I was reading and even just listening to some of these people, and they have such a deep knowledge on mathematics and how some of this stuff works in space, and then trying to process that through my own head, I'm like,
you need a layman's terms.
Yeah, I could see it in Back to the Future, and then even I understand what they were saying, with forward time travel. But if you just go in and read like some of the stuff that they talk about in forward time travel, it's like, what? I mean, I have the Wikipedia page open for time travel. So people go look at that. It'll give you a whole lot of information. There's plenty of reading to do. The philosophies on it, the wormholes, the grandfather paradox. They almost equate that to like it's just a big circle. You go back in and you kill your grandfather, and then you were never born. Then how are you there? Then you don't exist. And then
yeah, I get that.
It just goes on. And there's so many different, I guess, terms and just too much. It's too much for me to even think about that.
Well, what I thought about too is, let's say, have you ever thought about, are we the time travelers?
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is,
well,
our life is a time travel. Let's say when you die, you go back to the past, or do you start a new life, right? Or let's say like you die and they're like, all right, pick a time where you want to go back to.
And that's a great point because
we're energy, right?
Yeah, getting into that theory, right? I'll just bring this up because a lot of people think this, and
Keanu Reeves.
This is amazing. When I never heard this before,
but
now doing research for the show, there's a whole website dedicated to Keanu Reeves, immortal.com.
Yeah, he's immortal.
And they show you, he hasn't aged, but
it's like the Benjamin Button type effect almost.
He clearly is aged, but he still looks really good.
Yeah, but maybe he's gotten some cosmetic work done.
But getting to that point where you made that point, here's plenty of accounts where these people look like him.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
And this kind of like,
it's almost like Wonder Woman, where
yeah.
When you see in Wonder Woman, they show the different photographs of her in different time periods. Like this is the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same exact thing. And they show him, from 1748. He was this king. And then, you go to...
See, that one looks like him.
Yeah, from 1847. It does. Like, if you look at the picture. But then again, you can...
But you ever see the one of Johnny Depp?
Yeah. I mean, well, how is it famous actors only,
Well, because they're photographed more, so I'm sure...
Like
look at my guy.
Is there a photograph of us, you think?
My guy.
But, who, Johnny Depp?
No, the baggage guy.
The baggage guy?
The bellhop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the bellhop.
Oh, let me try to find that picture, and I could pull it up on YouTube for people to check it out. But I think I posted it on our website.
Yeah. So, I mean, that looks exactly like me.
What's
that
creepy.
Called? Like the doppelganger effect?
think it is, but I'm not too sure how you would say that. But yeah, dude, that was trippy, and I'll pull it up for people to see.
So like it's the Hawthorne Hotel.
Yeah, if you look at pictures, if you go to nightmare365.com and you go to our last page about the Hawthorne Hotel, I did a write-up a long time ago about it, and I just put that one up on our website just to see. And there's a bellhop from the 1920s, right? 1927, named Charlie. And when I saw this picture...
What if he died in 1986?
No.
And I'm just saying, what if he did?
And then you were born?
Yep, and I was born. I thought about that, too.
I mean, that guy has a striking resemblance to you.
Yep.
Like, when I saw that, I was blown away. I was kind of creeped out because obviously we're staying in that hotel, and then just looking at that into Salem, and then seeing you as a bellhop in the 1920s.
Yeah, man.
That was cool. So, yeah, just go look up the Hawthorne Hotel photo. I have it up on nightmare365.com.
Just slanging bags.
Yeah, you're a bellhop at a different time. So,
but yeah, some of the like what was it? The Gettysburg Address has one. Like a guy looks like he's.
All right, some of these.
I understand some of them like are way out there, but like some of these pictures you pull up and like they don't fit.
All right, here. All right, we'll go over some of them because if you also just Google. There's plenty of stories on this and videos. One of the recommendations that I linked in talks about the 10, theories or proof that's needed for time travel. There's one if you just type in time travel claims and urban legends. So one of the ones that really got me, that stood out, was the Charlie Chaplin time traveler. And in 1928, there's this woman that was captured in this film, The Circus. So it's on film, so it makes it more compelling.
Yeah, yeah.
And it looks like she's talking on the phone.
It does, yeah. She came, yep.
I'll try to get better pictures of it to pull it up. But, all right, the claim was, in this film, you could see the woman holding something up to her left ear.
Yes.
And walking. Now, a lot of people were saying it's a listening device or some type of hearing aid.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then, yeah, you don't really know. So that's what makes this whole woman in this clip of the time traveler.
That guy.
All right, I looked that one up.
What do you think about that guy?
It's not bizarre at all. All right, so in 1941, I really looked into this, and there's a lot of videos on it, and people talk about this like this is definitely proof.
Sure.
And if you really look into this photograph of this bridge being opened in British Columbia, and people could look it up in 1941. This guy standing here, and everybody's dressed in suits, the fedoras, the hats, and this kid. Or this older guy is here. He really looks like a modern day person wearing like t-shirts that me and you are wearing.
Looks like he was wearing like welding glasses or something.
And they call it the hipster time traveler. And if you look into it, the shirt that he's wearing is of a hockey team, the Monarchs.
Okay.
So it did exist during that time period. So people can get that. He's wearing like a cardigan sweater. People are saying like he's holding a modern day camera.
Yeah.
But if you really do some research, like, or whatever he's holding, this kind of stuff that he has does exist.
Does exist back then.
He does really look at a place.
He just does look at a place. That's why it's
even the
striking.
sunglasses, if you look at the sunglasses, just the sunglasses itself look, I guess I would describe them as, like the old people sunglasses where it wraps around kind of the side.
Yeah.
And that does look a little weird. Like this guy was definitely the hipster before hipsters, probably.
The original.
Yeah. So a lot of people talk about that one. And from what I saw mixed reviews. A lot of people were like, but you can't dispute some of this, like the t-shirt that he's wearing was a hockey team and it didn't exist.
So but like let me ask you this question.
Right.
Let's say you did go back.
Right.
Where would you go back to? Pick a
There's plenty of stuff I would want to go see.
One thing.
Want to go see?
Yeah, just one thing.
I would want to relive some of the stuff in my life.
No, your historical moment, I'm saying.
All right.
That would be captured on
film?
Yes.
Oh, so, all right, now I have to rethink that because there's a bunch of different stuff. I would have to go back now to the Civil War era. Like
Okay.
if I'm getting to that period.
All right. So let's say you went back to the Civil War. Wouldn't you, like, as a time traveler, try to get stuff from that time period, like, so you wouldn't look out of place?
Yes.
Like, that's what they did in Back to the Future 3. Like, the guy, he tried to go back as Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, and he still looked out of place.
Yeah, he looked out of place.
Yeah, let me
So, I mean, like, let's say you went back and you tried to dress like their time period. You know, I think your mannerisms and, like, the things you would say and
Just your
how you would
speech.
speak, yeah, would be totally different. Because people didn't speak like this
no.
even, like, 200 years ago.
No, I mean that's the one thing, everybody always wants proof, right? And we always say on the show the difference between a skeptic and believer is just really a personal experience.
Sure.
So what if I watched this video too? I'll send it to you. I don't want to like rag on anybody, but somebody posted, and I had so many questions. There's a YouTube video.
You had questions about this video?
Yeah, well, there's this kid in the video. He had his face blurred out, everything's blurred out, and he's like, I went to the year, whatever, 6,000.
Awesome.
And he was talking about, and he had this picture, and he shows the picture, and it was all blurry. He's like, well, time travel, it messes certain things up, and this was one of the things. But I had so many questions, and the interviewer didn't seem like they were asking anything. It was just like this kid talking.
Sure.
And I'm like, and just getting back to that point, yes, if I went back in time, I would want to have some proof to bring back to you or bring back here in the studio and said, here's some proof.
Yeah.
But then again, how much are you going to believe that proof?
Correct.
Like if I went back, right, and I'd say I found, I don't know, a newspaper, right, or something that they printed in 1776, because I love that time period.
Sure.
And I brought back like a Pennsylvania Gazette.
And
then I hand it to you, and you'd be like, oh, well, you could have found that in the old whatever.
No, what I would believe is if you went back and had your picture taken somewhere, it was in the newspaper.
Okay.
Then you could Photoshop that, yes. However, like if you found like an original copy of, like a hard copy.
All right. So what if we said, what if you made a claim that you made a claim that you went back in time,
Okay.
right? And you're like, oh, I'm a bellhop from 1927.
You know what I would do?
And I was like, yeah, I don't know. It's just a photo.
Okay.
All right.
What I would do is like I would carve something somewhere or leave something somewhere.
That's a good idea.
And be like, all right, if you don't believe me, go here. You'll find this, and it's going to be wrapped in the same period. Like, let's say you went back to 1776. We'd wrapped in like burlap, blah, 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 and it'll have like information on there. Not like of that day that I told you, but like of like a couple years after.
Well, yeah, here's another thing too. Like we're living, right? So we can go to that place and bury something. And then that's the claims that people would say.
Correct.
I mean, if you look at some of the claims of time travel, right? Where they found that Swiss watch.
Sure.
When they did the dig in, where was it, China?
Yeah.
And they found this miniature watch, and it said Swiss on it. And they were like, well, it doesn't date back that far, and it might have slipped in.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, same thing like that.
Or what if I carve something in an old tree?
I don't know.
That would be there.
I'm just trying to play skeptic because don't get me wrong. I am open-minded.
Or like
and trying to prove something to either you or say like the ghost was here.
Okay.
He's not here today, but.
So let's say, okay, this would probably be a good thing.
All right.
Let's say you picked out something that you knew was going to be around.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And you place something there. Like, let's say in a tree, because a tree would wrap around it.
Yeah.
You ever see like that? You can pull up a guy before World War II locked up his bike around a tree. You ever see this photo?
No, but I'll look it up.
So he locked up his bike before he went off to World War II, obviously, and he was killed, so he didn't come back. But his bike was still there, and the tree like wrapped around it.
I mean,
so I could do something like that.
I'll look that one up. But yeah, there's plenty of things where you go in the woods and there's a fence that is overtaken by a tree because no one's have done anything about it.
Or like if you knew something was going to be here today, like maybe carve your name in like the cement or something like that. Or leave something behind.
Yeah, you would have to. It's tough because
it's tough to prove, yes.
The skeptics are always going to come back and say, one thing or another. It's going to be one of those things where like, all right, yeah, that's proof in a way, but I could disprove it by doing these things.
Sure.
Same thing with like the guy that, which is another.
See, I think it would be easier to prove though if you went forward, right? Because then you can be like,
Yeah.
you can be like, all right, this year, let's say the Yankees are going to win the World Series, and give them the exact score, give them who was pitching,
Right.
blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Or bring back something like from the future, like a T-shirt.
Yeah. No, I mean, even you're always going to have skeptics, no
Sure.
matter how much proof you really have.
Yeah.
I mean, same thing with flat Earth, right? Like, it's one of these things. No matter how much proof you have, there's always going to be somebody on the other side of the aisle saying no. It doesn't work like that, or all right, it's easy to, even stuff, the technology that we talked about on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Photoshop technology. Like the
voice technology.
the Liber. Where they could take now the amount of time me and you talk on the show, somebody could make a recording and have us say whatever the hell they want. And it'd be crazy. I'd see that's where I don't know in the future, are they going to be able to, take the differences between our voice and the ones that people may copy and, just, look at in some of the movies where there's certain disguises that they have on and they look like the other person. How many times have I watched X-Files and they have like a mask on or Mission Impossible 2 where they're like the other person and they can talk like they look. And is the future going to become that where now we can't discern, just say,
I hope not.
We don't know what's real and what's fake.
Yeah.
But it seems like we're going that way.
Seems like we're going in that direction. I hope not, though.
And I mean, it seems like even our government has been doing stuff like this. And me, I don't really trust the government or what news tells us.
Jesse Ventura had a show, right? Conspiracy theorist?
Yeah.
Or theories. And he went back and talked to some of the CIA experiments like MK Ultra and stuff. And they said they kind of time traveled.
Well, yeah, the whole Philadelphia experiment.
Yep.
Where they said the cloaking devices and
correct.
Sent it back in time, and people say that disproved it, and even the Montauk Project, where a lot of people said they were. And I think we should do a whole episode on this.
The Montauk Project.
Yeah, I want to go out there. I mean, I know there's nothing out there now.
Yeah, it's not that far.
Yeah, it's Cape Hero. It's on Long Island, and they were talking about doing time travel experiments out there, basically picking up off where the Philadelphia experiment left off. But they were also doing other stuff, right?
Sure.
That might have happened. Same thing with Lyme disease, all this other stuff that they talk about, and that whole thing. I mean that
you could do a whole episode on like CIA experiments. Would be pretty cool.
Well, one of the things I think the guy that came out of this talked about him going in as a kid. There's a lot of shows on this too that I watched where this guy went and he time traveled to the Gettysburg Address and he claimed that was the kid in the picture where there's like the weird shoes
I
on.
heard about that. Yeah,
I mean, so there's claims of time travel like that, but that makes me think too.
So let me ask you this: would you believe him if he had like the clothes?
No, because people can get those.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I guess again, I would have to have that experience for me to really fully understand. Because,
like, how would you prove it to me, or how would you try to prove it?
Like, if I can go back in time.
Because if time travel was possible, let's say,
and I can go forward or backwards.
No, because forward I think is easier to prove.
All right, so if I went backwards.
Yeah, how would you prove it?
All right, I'm gonna come to you.
When I'm younger?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you some things, and you're gonna see me, and I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna give you a piece of paper, and what I'm wearing now, my Goosebump shirt. I'm like, here on this date, this time, we're gonna be doing a podcast. I don't know. By telling you that, will time change then?
It probably would, yeah.
And
because I'll be like, all right, what's a podcast?
Yeah.
And you'd be like, well, we talk. Like almost like a radio.
Yeah, it's internet radio. Trying to explain that.
And I'll be like, what's internet?
Right.
Right? So like...
Well, I always thought about that too. Like say I had...
Because then could you create that, right?
It's possible. But there's... All right. You know how you talk about having like trippy dreams or like scaring yourself sometimes when you think about, certain things? There's been plenty of times where I've... thought about, myself saying, all right, if I went back in time to say like high school, middle school, and I wanted to redo some things and live some moments over again.
Sure.
And how could I tell somebody, whether it's you, whether it's mom or dad, or some of my best friends, like, hey, I'm the same person.
But I know shit in the future.
Yeah. And that's another thing, like,
You would just have to.
but that's another thing, like we talked about before. Is it like going back to the future, like Marty McFly, and you're just there? So I'm there, but my younger self is also there.
It would have to be.
Or is my consciousness, you know, in my old body?
No, I think it would be like the Marty McFly thing, because I think you would still be there as your younger version, but you would also be there as your older version.
So that would be weird, right? Because then how would I explain, like, all right, if I came back here and all of a sudden I appear, but my other self is here.
I'm like, who the fuck are you?
And it's like, hey, I'm the new kid. My name is, Christopher.
Klein.
Yeah, I'm Calvin Klein. How do you...
What says that on your underwear, Calvin?
I don't know, how do you, like, prove that? Or how do you, like, try to come in contact with, like, because you in some movies they say, like, if you touch, like, Time Cop. You remember Time Cop?
Yeah.
Forgot about that movie. But when they touched each other, they, like, morphed into each other and
Correct.
they, like, disappeared.
Yeah.
Like, could I not go near myself? If I touched myself in some way, on, like, the arm, we would both, like,
Maybe.
explode.
Yeah.
Or
it's trippy to think about.
Yeah, can we exist in the same plane, right? Can like the version of ourselves, can we exist in that same plane, in that same moment, in that same time? Or is it something like there's only one allowed there?
Yeah, no, it's really trippy to think about.
And trust me, I think it's one of the topics people are fascinated with, time travel, because there's tons of movies.
That, and you can't, like, wrap your mind around it too. Like, you can in a sense, but here's my question about, like, Back to the Future, right? This is what I always had a problem with.
There's a lot of problems when you look at it
realistically. I get that, but realistically, all right, she was calling the kid Calvin Klein. So when Calvin Klein actually came out, wouldn't she be like, what the hell?
Yeah, like when he got older and he looked like...
Right?
I used to know Marty McFly back in the day.
Yeah, like Calvin Klein. How come...
You look like exactly like my son?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, anybody, even their dad or even like their grandparents, if their grandparents were still alive, I don't know if they were in the movie, but where he saw them, remember?
Sure.
Obviously, he had dinner with them.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
And then, he's like, a TV. And then what did they say? Like, holy crap. Like, now.
You're rich. How come you have a TV in every room? He's like, oh, he's just kidding.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, stuff like that, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, some of the stuff. But it's a movie, so, I mean, they gotta...
It is.
They can't explain everything.
No, and it's tough to, even though they did get some things right.
Yeah.
And I also think about, I forget the name of the movie, but there's another movie with Jason Statham, and I forget the other two actors. But there's this one the one guy kept going into other dimensions in different times and, like, taking himself. And the more times he killed himself, the stronger he got wherever he went. And these two, like, time cops had to stop him from doing that. That was a cool movie too. A little trippy. But yeah, if you think about the different possibilities and, different dimensions and different scenarios.
Sure.
Like with your life, yeah. And affecting the past, going back and even picking up like a rock or something, or something so minute that it could change drastically.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about.
I don't know. Maybe even thinking about, if I went back in time, like digging up my, friend's lawn and putting something there and saying, like, dude, I buried a car in your front lawn. And say if, like, the person lived there forever, for their whole lives, this person lived there and they know, like, the front yard was never dug up. But in the future, I dug a hole and buried a car there. And I'm like, all right, you're going to find this car in the front seat. You're going to find this in the back seat. You're going to find this.
Sure.
And the license plate says this. This is buried in your front yard. Start digging.
Maybe.
And then you dug it up and you're like, holy shit, like everything that they said is correct.
Maybe.
I mean, is that way to prove it?
So do you think, like, getting back to the whole topic, do you think time travel is possible?
From what I've learned, yeah, it's possible for the future. It doesn't seem that it's possible for us to think about or the way we think of it is in movies.
Correct.
I don't know. I would like to think so. I would like to think that.
So you think in like 50 years we can time travel?
I don't even think 50 years. I think it's going to be more, maybe like a
But
couple
should
hundred
we?
years.
And then should we?
Well, like, yeah.
Probably not, right?
I don't think so, because I think a lot of people would do some messed up stuff. Because even if you think about it in your own terms, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff I wouldn't change about my life. I love and enjoy it.
Sure,
But
but there's always something you would change.
yeah, if I can go back.
I think people would use it for their personal greed and wealth.
Of course they would. And that's why I think it's really scary in some of these, things. How do we know the future is not changing around us right now? Like with some of these, the big government conspiracies, right? Where everybody wants to point to, like the Philadelphia experiment, all this. Oh, they had this technology to do it. Like, if they had this technology in the 40s, what do you think they have now?
Well, they always say like government technology is like 30 years ahead of ours.
Yeah, so even if that's true, right? So say if they do have time travel, wouldn't they try? I mean, it depends on who has it and which faction, right? Because there's always like one side or the other. So there's two forces always fighting, no matter what. Even if it is in government, so there's always one side of people saying like, we have this stuff. And it's like, all right, the president knows everything. President doesn't know everything.
No.
Because there's certain factions inside the government that are probably like, all right.
The black budgets. Like,
yeah, the black budgets.
They don't know everything.
Well, that's his thing, right? Like, if you were a temporary employee like the president is for 4 years, 8 years if you're lucky.
Sure.
All right, he's a temporary employee. I'm going to be here for a long time working for
you're not gonna,
the military. We're not going to give this technology to this person or let them know.
Unless something drastic happens, like an alien invasion or something.
Yeah, maybe then. So maybe there's certain factions inside the government with the like the black budget, which, is highly debatable too. They say like the president's here and then there's 20 something things above it.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe that, but okay.
So if they do, that's kind of scary, because then couldn't they just wipe us off now? Like, you know how people say like, oh, the government has time travel and they go back and they kill people, and some of these murders that happen that are unsolved, it's like, it could correlate with some of this stuff. But wouldn't you just want to erase that person instead of just like killing them off? Like, if they had this technology and I can go back to like, before you were born and like just mess up mom and dad meeting and you're never born, and you won't have to worry about like a trail.
Yeah, but maybe they. So
it's
crazy to think about, but maybe like if you believe in destiny and fate, like they go ahead and like because it might change something if they do that.
True, it could. And I don't know, man. Time travel is one of those things where I don't know if you
can go round and round and talk about this for hours, I think, just because it's so fascinating, just because it's so, like, highly, like, mind-blowing.
It is when
you think about it.
It is. And to think about, all right, even some of the stuff that they sent in those, what was it, the Mars rover, or even some of the stuff that they just sent out.
Yep.
How many years ago? Like 20 years ago? We were young.
It's still going.
Yeah, just... All right, is that time traveling? Like, did it hit another dimension now? It's in a different time and a different dimension, and we don't even know about it.
Yeah, that would be nuts.
Yeah, I think about it often, too, because I always think about, like, oh, I'm going to go back into the past and get those lotto numbers the week before somebody else won it. So, all right, it's not the jackpot it was a week later, but I'm still going to win a couple $1 million, and I'll be set.
That'll be awesome.
And like you said, I think a lot more people will use it
for greed,
for greed and for their own nefarious purpose.
Yep.
Of just saying, all right, well, I want to change this one aspect, because it was, all right, if I'd done this, went to this college, I would have been on this career path, but now I'm here and I'm trying to change it now, but I can't. So I think a lot of people would use it for their own purpose rather than trying to make the world
better.
Yeah, this utopia that everybody hopes that it is. Because in the end, I don't think it'll ever be that way.
No, there's never going to be peace, because there always has to be some conflict.
Yeah.
It's like, we're built for conflict. Human beings are built for conflict. We like conflict.
Yeah, we really do. And there's always going to be, right? There's always two sides of the conversation. We can have this conversation and somebody could be listening and saying, no, this is total bull, Yeah. So... yeah, I want to believe that maybe in the future it is possible, but I don't think we'll see it in our lifetime. And if we do, holy cow, man. I would definitely want to talk about it again. But, you have to check out Hot Tub Time Machine.
I'll check that out today.
You better check that out. And I'll check out the other one that you said. So I guess we're really leaving it at that. Time travel, from the research that I've done, we know it's possible to...
In a certain degree, but not as we think about it.
Well, that's another thing. Like even Albert Einstein, right? When he thought this whole thing through and he kind of proved it, how come no one has went forth like a Elon Musk?
Maybe maybe they have, and the government just like says like stop. Like people believe like they have a cure for cancer, they have a cure for like every major disease, but like they don't want to release that. So like that's another topic. But
well, yeah, that's all money, isn't it?
I mean, look at like Nicholas Tesla. Look at some of his inventions that were so like outlandish and crazy that you could talk about him on a whole nother episode of what he created and what he designed.
It's true.
Because he was coming up with free energy.
If you had to invent a time machine, how would you do it?
I have no idea.
Here, you don't know how you would do it? Like if you had to pick something, would it be a car or something?
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
Would you build it out of a DeLorean?
No.
No? Why not?
I would build it out of.
Would you build it out of your car?
No.
Would it just be like a telephone booth?
I don't think so.
Like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
No.
Would it be
It would have to be like something readily like you could build back in the day. Because let's say you went back and something broke.
What if it's just like it's an iPhone and you could just press a button?
That'd be fucking great.
But then you don't have that technology back then. What if like
you bring it back up one?
The battery's on like 3.
Well, then you're stuck there. You're fucked.
You're like, no. Yeah. I mean, I guess there is ways to make up like a battery and plug it in. But time travel, man. It is trippy to think about. And I hope I have some dreams about it.
Let's do it.
You're going to have some dreams?
Maybe.
You said let's do it like it's easy.
I'm going to try.
Time travel is not easy, man. But, yeah. So is there any recommendations besides the videos that we shared that you want to tell people, hey, check this out?
Not really.
No?
No.
So time travel, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, it's just very trippy.
It's very trippy. And I don't know if I want to hear people's comments on this. And I want to hear some of their theories.
Yeah, because maybe they have different theories. I would love to hear that.
Obviously, there's plenty we didn't touch base on. We could have went down the list. Like with the hipster time travel with the lady. Even some JFK stuff. A lot of people think. I've seen not a lot of people. I wouldn't say a lot. Yeah, but there's some things where I would go back and see that. But people say, oh, it's possible time travel, and they shot him.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows? But it is a mystery. It is case file number 22. Who knows?
Oh, yeah, man.
Will we ever know? I don't know.
What are we talking about on next week's episode?
Next week episode, we're talking about the Texarkana Moonlight murders. And if anybody ever saw the town that dreaded sundown, and you haven't seen that, so
no, I'm gonna watch that maybe today.
Yeah, watch it. There's two of them. Their first one in the 70s was really good, and then also I think the remake that they did in 2014 was also really good too. Yeah, I showed you the clips, but the actual people, everything's based on a true story, right? So this is kind of loosely based on a true story, the town that dreaded sundown. So there's tons of documentaries on it too. So check it out. And that was actually one of our listeners. Wrote in, and he was like, "Oh, you should really do the guy John." He's like, "You should do an episode on that." So here we are. We're doing it next week. Yep, it's case file 23. But thanks everybody for tuning in to today's episode. Help spread the word about our podcast, and please leave a review on iTunes or anywhere else that you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah, it really helps us out.
It does. And we're also, me and G wanted to do something nice. If you do leave us a review, and send us an email if you do leave a review, no matter where it is, just say, hey, I left a review on iTunes or Stitcher, TuneIn, and you'll be entered to win one of our t-shirts. Greg's wearing it, even though if you're watching on YouTube, he's wearing a sling. So he hurt himself again. But
stem cells.
Yeah. we're gonna give one lucky winner. We'll announce it on social media. So follow us on social media as well. But if you leave a review, we're gonna give you an entry to win a T-shirt, and we'll probably do it next week, right? So we should say like a week.
Give him 2 weeks.
Give him 2 weeks.
Yeah, give him 2 weeks.
We'll have 2 weeks from now to enter, and just email us. So our email, matt@nightmare365.com, and then all of our contact information can be found on our website, nightmare365.com again. And check out our YouTube page, subscribe, because we've been releasing these shows when we do them live on our YouTube page, as well as some case files, and we're going to keep up on the weird news as well. And check out our Patreon page, because I've been releasing some of the old podcasts that I used to do just by myself with guests on there. So you can go over there and subscribe, whatever, follow, donate. Any bit helps. But thank you again. And next week, Texarkana Moonlight Murders.
See you guys then.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in. Until we speak again, everybody, stay spooky.